Joining us, Cornelia Meyer, Chief Executive of MRL Corporation and Business Consultancy.
Good morning, Cornelia.
Nice
Good morning.
To see you. The International New York Times, and this top story still remaining, dominating the headlines around the world, the situation in the Philippines. The United Nations is asking for $300 million to help, and you can bring some perspective to this story, having lived in the Philippines yourself for a few years. Right?
Yeah, for a few years, in the mid-90s. Well, you know, it's very easy to be harsh on the Philippine government, and surely not as much aid that should have gotten there got there, but it's an unprecedented scale. They just had a major earthquake 2 provinces over, so they're really stretched. Their emergency services are stretched, and if we look at it, you know, the tower of the airport in Tacloban was down, the roads are down. You've seen the scenes of destruction. It's not easy to do it. And yes, the Philippines is not Switzerland, and maybe not as well organized as Switzerland, but it's easy to be harsh.
But when you consider that even in developed countries, we saw with, as you were having a conversation with a guest a moment ago, Sally, that even in developed countries, when a disaster of this scale strikes, you can find authorities in a very difficult position. So your point is well placed.
It's very difficult, and also you have so many NGOs and aid agencies going in, and somebody needs to do the coordination, because you can't have everybody just run all over the place. So it is really a mammoth task.
Okay, well, let's move on now to other stories in the papers. And the Financial Times, its front page, focuses on the investigation into manipulation of the foreign exchange markets. And it talks about the fact that the regulator that's looking into this, the Financial Conduct Authority, is reported to have asked for information from 15 lenders now. So the net is widening.
The net is widening, and it's not just the FCA, it's 7 other countries that are looking into this as well. And if you look at it, it's a $5.3 trillion market daily. And one of the big exchanges that's looked at, which is a quarter of it, the most widely traded one, which is the dollar-euro one. So this is big. This is as big as LIBOR.
I mean, in this case, what was done that was not, you know, manipulation?
They agreed. They seem to have agreed on rates prior to customer trades. So they seem to have had deliberations and consultations prior to customer trades, which obviously is not on, because you need to make the trade when the trade is happening and set the price when the trade is happening.
What could be the fallout?
Well, the fallout could be, I think, similar as it was with LIBOR. People will get fined, and you see it's a lot of the same suspects. It's UBS, it's RBS, it's a lot of the same suspects.
Let's move on to the South China Morning Post. The third plenum meeting of the Chinese Communist Party leaders ended, and with the South China Morning Post reporting that the markets will now get a decisive role in the economy. Can we expect major structural changes in the Chinese economy anytime?
We can expect some structural changes. This comes against the backdrop of a country that has grown for a long time but is adjusting, that has an aging population, that has a lot of bad debt in the banks. And so what they want to do is they want to free up investment regulations. They want to make sure that it becomes a more consumer-driven country and a less export-driven country. And they also want to give more power sort of to the rural side, to the farmers. I think they're adjusting to something that will be slower growth.
What do you make of the new leadership when they were set in, which was a huge event at the time? It doesn't happen often in China. There was a lot of optimism about what they will be planning, what they will be doing in terms of reform and change. What do you think so far?
I think so far they've done the right thing, and it happens every 10 years. So they've done it cautiously, because on one hand they want to preserve their political power of the party. On the other hand, they want to free up. So that's not that easy to tally.
Well, perhaps an indication of things to come. If you take a look at the China Daily, you have the story of China and the EU launching investment treaty talks, perhaps quite connected to what is happening, we've just seen happening in
Absolutely, and they had actually a trial run. The Swiss, small country, had an investment treaty or something similar, sort of as a trial run. So now they're going to the EU, and that makes sense because the EU is the largest trading partner of China.
lots of trade. There's already lots of investment, isn't there, between China and EU countries?
But if you make it easier, if you allow for innovation to flow both ways, that's a good thing.
This is coming as Europe is discussing with the US a massive, massive trade deal. So it's like Europe's tackling, dealing with the US, and then it's reaching out to China. It's kind of right in the middle, and its tentacles are everywhere.
But Europe is in the middle, and the US is the major market, and China is a major market. So yes, obviously you want to get along, or you want to make sure that trade and investment with countries that you do a lot of trade and investment with is regulated well.
Let's move on to the Daily Telegraph on its business pages, and you have a picture of the Chancellor, George Osborne, saying we're on a path to prosperity, but there's always a bit of politics mixed with economics when it comes to these things. But what are your thoughts about the fundamentals? Is he right?
Well, we seem to be doing better, but when he says, well, we have to be careful with taxes, well, maybe we have to be careful with taxes, but when he says no price fixing, when I look, at the upper echelon of the economy, of the more affluent people seem to be doing better, but when I look at the recent hikes, for instance, in electricity prices, for poor people, for not so affluent people, this is really tough.
I was going to say, I mean, he's saying we're on the path to prosperity.
For whom?
Exactly. Is that for, the City of London? Is that for the affluent, the wealthy, maybe even middle classes?
It's the
but
wealthy.
There's a huge, there's a vast number of people who will say, hang on a second.
Yeah, hang on a second.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
And he's just cut all the benefits of these people. And it's easy to say, oh, just get a job. It's not that easy to get a job.
But this is in the Telegraph, which is read by, not necessarily read by the people who can't pay their electricity bill at the moment. But anyway.
Well, the Christmas decorations are all about us already. If you were to step outside our office
in the high street,
on the high street, you'll see that. The International New York Times talking about what will likely be on the list of many parents and some adults as well. New video game consoles. Hazard a guess. You're not much of a gamer, are you?
No.
But it's big business, we know.
It's big business, but it also says here that after Christmas this will fall down because people are moving more and more to mobile platforms, and if you look at the Twitter IPO and how well it's done, that is a sign investors are usually moving where the consumers and the markets are moving, to mobile platforms.
Right. Cornelia Mayer, great having you on the program. Great seeing you again, and that's it.